Hello everyone. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about vectors from only NEET perspective. We will discuss what are scalars and vectors, types of vectors, addition of vectors, subtraction of vectors, and the product of vectors, which is divided into two types, dot product and cross product. We will also discuss about resolution of vectors at the end. And for each and every topic, I will try to give an example of a numerical, and I have chosen all the numericals which are previously asked in the NEET examination. You need only magnitude to express certain types of physical quantities. They are called scalars, and example of scalar quantities are distance, speed, time, work, power, etc. But there are also other type of physical quantities which need particular direction along with magnitude to be expressed. Such type of physical quantities are called vectors, and examples of vector quantities are displacement, velocity, acceleration, force, torque, etc. But why do we say that magnitude and direction is needed for a physical quantity? Let me take an example of distance and displacement. Say, for example, you travel daily to your school from home, okay, and you go in this way to your school, and maybe you come back in this way to your home. That means while going to school, you are traveling 8 meters here, 3 meters plus 5 meters, and while coming back from school, there also you are traveling 8 meters, that is 3 meters plus 5 meters. So this is the distance you have traveled, 8 meters while going and 8 meters while coming back to your home. Actually, if I want to see your displacement, I am not going to measure this distance. I will see the shortest distance from your home to your school. This is called displacement. That is the distance between your initial and final position will give me the displacement. Remember, distance will never be zero, isn't it? Because you are traveling. But displacement can be zero. Say that you went to school in the morning and then you came back to your home in the evening. That means that if I see your displacement is zero because you have started from your home and then you have came back to your home. In this situation, your displacement is zero, but you have traveled a total of 16 meters of distance here. So you can see clearly that distance did not need any direction. Whether you went to school or you came back from school to your home, it did not depend on the direction. Even though you came back to your home, it had some magnitude. But when you went in the morning from your home to your school, there was some value of displacement. It was not zero. But when you came back to your home in the evening, then displacement becomes zero because you are in your original position. So we say that distance does not require direction to describe it. So distance falls in the scalar category, but displacement required the direction. That's why it falls in the vector category. So one thing you have to remember is that distance can never be zero, but displacement can be zero depending upon the situation. Now let's see what are the types of vectors. Actually, there are many types of vectors, but we are focusing only on very important few types of vectors. The first type of vector which I am going to talk about is parallel vectors. Any two vectors which have same direction are called parallel vectors, and then they are also known as collinear vectors. Basically, collinear vectors means they lie along same line. So we use two words here, either parallel vectors or collinear vectors. Similarly, any two vectors which are in opposite direction are known as antiparallel vectors. The vectors with equal magnitude and same direction are known as equal vectors. The negative or opposite vectors are any two vectors which have equal magnitude but opposite direction. A vector which has zero magnitude is called null or zero vector. You can't determine the direction of the zero vector. If you add this zero vector to a vector, then you will have the same vector. Also, if you add two vectors with equal magnitude and opposite direction, you will end up with a zero vector. Unit vector is a very important vector for us because we oftenly use it in vectors, even in physics. So unit vector has a unit magnitude and it is used to basically specify the direction of a vector. Its direction will always be along the direction of its vector. Say for example, if you have a xy coordinate and the origin is there, then if your vector is pointing towards P, then the unit vector for this vector A, which is pointing towards P, is A cap. You call this A cap as unit vector of vector A. And it is a unitless and dimensionless quantity. And how do you find it? Your unit vector A cap is equal to its vector A upon the magnitude of its vector A. You can denote these unit vectors as I, J and K along X, Y and Z axis respectively. If you have a vector A, then how do you write it in 3D space? See here, you write it like this. Vector A is equal to AX, the vector along X direction with the unit vector I, plus vector along Y direction with the unit vector J which is along the Y direction, plus AZ, the vector along the Z direction with the unit vector in that direction. So if you want to find the magnitude of this vector A, you write it like this, that the mod of vector A is equal to square root of AX square plus AY square plus AZ square. While finding the magnitude of vector A, we are not considering the unit vectors I, J and K because their role is just to show the direction and their magnitude is 1. For example, if you have a question like this. So this question is asked in some previous year NEET examination. So the question is, the expression 1 upon root 2 into I plus 1 upon root 2 into j is A, and the options are unit vector, null vector, vector of magnitude root 2 or scalar. See here, first you find the magnitude. How do you find the magnitude? Just now I told you, you have to find the magnitude by writing the square root over the values of the vectors I and j. You are not going to include the vectors I and j. So first find the magnitude, square root of 1 upon root 2 whole square plus 1 upon root 2 whole square. If even the k term was given in the question, then we would add it here along with the I and j terms. Okay, so this is going to be equal to square root of 1 upon 2 plus 1 upon 2 because square root of 2 whole square will be 2. So this is root 1 or simply 1. So it is clear that you are getting the magnitude of this expression as equal to 1. And just now we saw that the magnitude of a unit vector is equal to 1. So our option will be option A, unit vector. Had we got the magnitude 0, then we would take this null vector. But we got magnitude as 1. That's why we are taking the unit vector. Now let's talk about vector addition. Vector addition cannot be done like our simple mathematics which we have done in our school. Vector addition is different from algebraic addition. And first rule is given by triangle law of vector addition. It says that if two vectors, vector A and vector B, acting simultaneously on a body are represented in magnitude and direction by two sides of a triangle in order, then the resultant is the third side of that triangle taken in opposite order. And this resultant will be equal to sum of the other two sides of the triangle. If these two sides of vectors are in order with the third side of the triangle, then the resultant will be the difference of these two sides. So what you have to remember is, if your vectors are not in order with the resultant, then the resultant will be equal to sum of these two sides. And if your two sides of the triangle are in order with the resultant, see here, if I start from O, I can come back to O in one direction only. Just without lifting my pen, I can come back to this O. So in this case, the resultant will be equal to the difference of the two sides, vector A and vector B. Actually, this triangle law of vector addition is the qualification of a physical quantity with magnitude and direction to become a vector. For example, see, you have two quantities, current and current density. Both the physical quantities have magnitude and direction, but current is not a vector. It is a scalar and current density is a vector. The reason is that in spite of the current having magnitude and direction, it does not obey vector law of addition. If you want to find a current at a junction, it is going to be the algebraic sum. It is not going to be the vector sum. Because if you use the vector sum at one point, current will become 0 at a point, which is not practically possible. Therefore, current is a scalar. Whereas current density obeys the vector law of addition. That's why we put it in the category of the vectors. You can also find the magnitude of the resultant using this triangle law of vector addition. Here the magnitude of the resultant will be equal to square root of a square plus b square plus 2ab cos theta. Or if you want to find the value of other angle beta, then you can use this tan beta is equal to b sin theta upon a plus b cos theta. There is a condition which can help you as a short trick in your NEET exam. If these two sides are equal, if in case your A is equal to B, then you can find the resultant using this shortcut. Resultant is always going to be 2A into cos theta upon 2. And your value of beta will be equal to half of the theta. And for subtraction of vectors, actually subtraction of vectors means you are adding a vector with another vector and one of them is a vector with negative sign. So what will be the resultant here? Resultant will be the same, but only thing is that you will have a minus for 2ab cos theta. And for tan beta, you will have a minus between a and b cos theta. And the shortcut here is, if you have these two vectors a is equal to b, then the resultant will be equal to 2a sin theta upon 2. One can also use parallelogram law of vector addition, which is similar to the triangle law. Only thing is that here we represent the vectors by the sides of a parallelogram instead of a triangle, and the resultant vector r is the diagonal of this parallelogram. You can use this parallelogram law of vector addition to solve upstream and downstream riverboat problems. You can find relative velocity using this parallelogram law of vector addition. You can also solve problems related to force using this laws of vector addition. For example, if you have a question like this, if the angle between two forces increases, the magnitude of their resultant decreases, increases, remains unchanged, or decreases and increases. See here, we know that force is a vector quantity and angle is also mentioned here in the question. So you can use triangle law of vector addition to find the resultant force. Our resultant force will surely be equal to square root of f1 square plus f2 square plus 2 times f1 f2 into cos theta. By this relation we can see that if our theta increases, then our cos theta should decrease. Why did I say so? We know that cos 0 is 1, cos 45 is 1 upon root 2 and cos 90 is 0. You can see that when the angles are increasing, the values of cos with that angle is decreasing. So cos 0 has 1, whereas cos 90 is 0. And we can see that the resultant force is directly proportional to cos theta. So if theta is decreasing, my resultant force should also decrease. So option A, decreases, is the right answer here. If you have number of vectors as sides of a polygon taken in order, then the resultant is represented by the closing side of the polygon taken in opposite order. See here, if you talk about this triangle where your OM is the closing vector, so here OM will be equal to this vector A plus vector B. In the same way, here ON will be equal to vector A plus B plus vector C. And vector OP will be equal to sum of these vectors and this vector. So this was about addition of vectors. Now let's talk about multiplication of vectors. Vectors are multiplied in two ways. One is the dot or scalar product. The other one is the cross or vector product. But why do we need two types of products to multiply vectors? Actually, there are certain types of physical quantities which are scalars, but they are the products of two vectors. For such physical quantities, we need dot or scalar product. For example, we have work done. This is the dot product of force and displacement. Force is a vector, displacement is a vector, but work is a scalar. We have another example of power. Power is equal to force into velocity. Both are vectors, but power is a scalar. For such type of physical quantities which are being scalars, they are the product of two vectors. For them, this process is there. This is known as dot or scalar product. There are certain types of physical quantities which are themselves vectors and they are the products of two vectors. For them, we need cross or vector products. Examples are torque. Torque is a product of position vector and force. Both are vectors. And angular momentum is there. That is also product of position vector and momentum. Both are vectors. We will talk about these examples later in a more clear way. Now coming to dot products. For two vectors A and B, we denote the dot product by a dot. So if we are finding the dot product between vector A and vector B, we write it like this, A dot B. And then it is defined as AB into cos theta. And the theta lies between 0 and pi. That is 0 degree and 180 degree. And if I put cos theta in the left hand side, I can have the value of cos theta as vector A dot B upon magnitude of vector A into magnitude of vector B. So one thing which we have to keep in our mind is that the dot product or scalar product is connected with cos theta, and theta is the angle between those two vectors. The dot product has simple properties. Vector A dot vector B is equal to vector B into A. As the name suggests, the dot product or the scalar product talks about scalars. So we don't need to worry much about the direction in this case. We are worried about the magnitudes here. And then when we say that vector A dot vector B is equal to vector B dot vector A, we mean to say that the dot product obeys the commutative law. It also obeys the distributive law. And then the main thing comes. When two similar vectors are multiplied as dot products, I, j, j and k, k, their value is going to be 1. Because we know that all the three unit vectors are perpendicular to each other. That means the angle between them should be 90 degree. Why I say that I dot I and j dot j and k dot k is 1? Because we know that these three unit vectors are perpendicular to each other, I, j and k. Now if I multiply with similar vectors, the similar unit vectors, it means that I am multiplying the parallel or collinear vectors, and they will have angle 0 between them, and cos 0 is 1, and unit vector's magnitude is 1. Therefore, when I write about the dot product, I use I into cos 0. That's why I dot I becomes 1. And for the same reason, because I, j, k are perpendicular to each other, here I write I, j cos 90. The value of I is 1, the value of j is 1, and cos 90 is 0. And all the vectors are perpendicular to each other. That is, the angle is 90 degree between them, and cos 90 is 0. That's the reason why I dot j, j dot k and k dot I becomes 0. Okay. So two things which you have to remember is I dot I, j dot j, k dot k. When similar unit vectors are multiplied as dot products, their value is going to be 1. And when different unit vectors are multiplied as dot products, then their value is going to be 0. As I told before, now let's talk about the examples of dot products. You can see here work, which is equal to force into displacement, the power, which is equal to force into velocity. It is from your class 11 chapters, work, power and energy. And then electric flux, magnetic flux, potential, energy of dipole in uniform field. All these was from your class 12 physics. So all these quantities are being calculated by the dot products. So if you get any of the question based on that, remember that you have to apply scalar or dot product in this. For example, if the question is two forces I plus j plus k Newton and I plus 2j plus 3k Newton act on a particle and displace it from 234 to 0.543, displacement in meters. Work done is, and 4 options are given. We know that work done is equal to force into displacement. Two forces are given which are going to act on one particle. That means you have to add both the forces, and that one particle is being displaced from one place to another. That means you have to subtract. Because remember, in the starting of this lecture, we told that displacement is equal to the difference between the final position and the initial position of the body. You have to subtract the coordinates of the displacement. So total force will be the sum of the two forces which are given in the question. So I am going to add them. How do I add them? I am going to add the i's, the j's and the k's. Because I is in x direction, j is in y direction and k is in z direction. So my first term becomes I plus I as 2i cap plus j plus 2j, it is 3j cap, plus k plus 3k, it is 4k cap. So this becomes my force. Now what I am going to do for displacement? First I am going to write the given coordinates in terms of vectors. How do I write them? This 5 means that it is the point in the x direction, 4 is the point in the y direction and 3 is the point in the z direction. In the same way, 2 is the point in the x direction, 3 is the point in the y direction and 4 is the point in the z direction. So using this knowledge, I will just write these coordinates in terms of vectors. And I am writing the final position first because I am finding the displacement which is equal to the final position minus the initial position. The final position of the particle is 5a plus 4j plus 3k. I am going to subtract this from the initial position of the particle, which is 2i plus 3j plus 4k. 5 minus 2i becomes 3i cap plus 4 minus 3i becomes j cap plus 3k minus 4k becomes minus k cap. This is in meters. So I got force and displacement in terms of vectors. Now I can easily find the work done, which is equal to force into displacement. Force is 2i cap plus 3j cap plus 4k cap, and displacement is 3i cap plus j cap minus k cap, and there is a dot product. This is equal to 2i into 3i, which is 6i into I plus 3 into 1 is 1, j cap into j cap minus 4 into k cap into k cap. So this into is a dot product here. Remember, just now we told that I cap into I cap will be 1, j cap into j cap will be 1, and k cap into k cap will be 1. So my work done will become 6 plus 3 minus 4, which is equal to 5 joules. Answer A will be the right answer. Takes time for me to explain, but once you learn, you will do this within seconds if you have a good practice. Now coming to cross product. Cross product or vector product of two vectors is the area of the parallelogram between those two vectors. The cross product of vector A and B is denoted by A cross B, and this resultant vector C is perpendicular to the plane containing vector A and B such that A, B and C form right-handed system. You can also write A cross B as AB sine theta into n cap, where theta lies between 0 and pi. And then because of this first equation, you can take sine theta in the left hand side, and then your sine theta will be equal to magnitude of the cross products of A and B upon magnitude of vector A into magnitude of vector B. Now these three vectors in the vector product, they form a right-handed system. Therefore, you can use the right hand thumb rule in order to find the direction. Here, n cap is very important. It is a vector perpendicular to vector A and B. The direction of n cap is given by right hand thumb rule. If you keep your fingers like this and curl your fingers from A to B, then direction of A cross B or C will be given by your thumb. For example, if you have a question like this, if a vector A points vertically upward and vector B points towards north, the vector product A cross B is. Keep your fingers of your right hand towards sky. See here, they have told that vector A points vertically upward and B points towards north. What you are going to do is just keep fingers of your right hand towards sky and curl them towards north. That is, curl them towards B. Because once you keep your fingers towards the sky and you curl them, obviously you are going to curl them towards B, and B is towards north. Then your thumb will obviously point towards west. So the right answer is the vector product of A cross B should be along west. If we have two vectors, vector A and vector B, let me write it in the 3D space way. It will be AXI plus AYJ plus AZK cap. All these are unit vectors. And if I write vector B, I will write it as BX into I cap plus BY into J cap plus BZ into K cap. We can also have cross product of these two vectors as the determinant of the matrix, whose first row is the unit vectors, second row is the first vector, and third row is the second vector. Now how to solve this determinant? It is very easy actually. First write the first term I here. Now multiply AYBZ, then multiply BYAZ and put a minus sign between them. Then write a minus J into. Now for the first term when we wrote I, we left these. Now for the J term, we leave this. The remaining terms are AX, we multiply it like this. AX into BZ and then BX into AZ, and we write a minus sign between them. Plus, now we write plus into K cap. Now we leave this column and this row and then multiply AX with BY, BX with AY and write a minus sign between them. So what you have to do is inside the brackets you are using minus sign, and outside it is alternate. First time it is plus, then it is minus, then it is plus. So this is how you are going to solve this determinant, which is the answer for your vector product. Okay. If you practice this 2 or 3 times, it will become very easy for you to find this determinant. Now one more thing is that you need to follow the cyclic order for the cross product of two unit vectors. Now for them to become positive, you follow the cyclic order, and for them to become negative, you follow the anti-cyclic order. If you follow this order of I, J and K, then your cross product will be, if I cross J is there, it will be K. If J cross K is there, it will be I. If K cross I is there, it will be J. If you follow the anti-cyclic order, then I cross K will become minus J, J cross I will become minus K, K cross J will become minus I. So what you have to remember is that if you are following the cyclic order of the unit vectors I, J, K, then their cross product will be the third remaining unit vector and it will have a positive sign. If you are following the anti-cyclic order, then the third vector will be having a negative sign. Now these are the properties of vector product. First and foremost very important property is that the vector product or the cross product doesn't obey commutative law. That means you have to be very careful with the direction. A cross B will be equal to minus B cross A. Of course it follows distributive property, and then you can multiply a scalar with the cross product. In any manner you can multiply. And as I told you now, and if you have the cross product of same vectors, your answer is going to be 0. Why is it so? Because cross product involves sign, and for similar vectors the angle between these two vectors will be 0 and sin 0 is 0. That's the reason why I cross I, J cross J and K cross K will be always equal to 0. And if you follow the cyclic order, you will have a positive vector, positive unit vector. If you follow the anti-cyclic order, you will have a negative unit vector. Only one thing you have to remember is cyclic is positive, anti-cyclic is negative. If you don't know the magnitude of the given vectors, but if you know their position, that is if you know their x, y and z coordinates, then you can use the displacement vector and find the magnitude of the resultant vector. You can use this formula. This is just the extension of the distance formula for x comma y. This is also based on the fact that the displacement vector is the difference of the final position and the initial position of the particle. You can use Lami's theorem to calculate forces in equilibrium. This Lami's theorem states that when three forces are acting at a point R in equilibrium, then each force is proportional to sine of the angle between the two forces. So you can use this theorem whenever needed. By seeing the problem, you can decide if it is involved with the angles and forces are in equilibrium, then you can easily use this theorem and find the related solution. There are few very important points which you need to know, which are that for parallel vectors, A cross B will be 0. As I told you earlier, in A cross B, if vectors are parallel, theta will be 0 and cross product involves sine, and sin 0 is going to be 0. Therefore, A cross B will be 0. And in the contrast, for dot product, if two vectors are perpendicular, then it will be 0. Because if they are perpendicular, theta will be 90 and cos 90 is 0. And for coplanar vectors, that is if the vectors lie on the same plane, then A dot B cross C is equal to 0. This is also known as scalar triple product. And why is it 0? Because when I say that A dot B cross C is there, I mean to say that vector A is perpendicular to cross product of B and C. And if the two vectors are perpendicular, the angle between them will be 90 degree. And because this is a dot product, cos 90 will be equal to 0. And for dot product, if cos 90 is 0, then the entire dot product is going to be 0. Therefore, A dot B cross C will be equal to 0. And the next important thing is that if A, B, C points are collinear, then vector AB will be equal to lambda into vector BC. Actually, collinear means, I told you in the starting of this lecture, collinear or parallel vectors, they lie on the same line. If these vectors lie on the same line, then they are going to be equal in direction. Their direction will be same, but their values may differ, and their values are going to be magnitudes, that is their scalars. These are the examples of cross products. All are equations which you have learnt in your class 11. Here what terms comes first is very important, because remember what I told you, A cross B is not equal to B cross A. It is equal to minus B cross A. You can see here in torque and angular momentum, first term is position vector. Only in linear velocity, position vector comes as second term. So this you have to keep in your mind. I repeat, please remember that torque and angular momentum will have first term as position vector, not second term. If you use them as second term, that is if you use torque as F cross R, then your answer is going to be wrong. If you use angular momentum as linear momentum into position vector, then your answer is going to be wrong. Let's do an example based on it. If position vector of a particle is vector r is equal to 3I plus 4j meter and its angular velocity is vector omega is equal to j plus 2k radian per second, then its linear velocity is, and there are 4 options. So this is very simple. We know that the linear velocity is the cross product of angular velocity and position vector, and the two vectors are given 1j plus 2k, and this is the cross product of the position vector, which is 3I plus 4j plus 0k. Let's write it in the determinant form. First we will write I, j and k. Then we will write the first vector 0, 1, 2. Then we will write the second vector 3, 4, 0. This is equal to I into, we are going to multiply it this way. 1 into 0 is 0 minus 4 2s are 8 minus j into, we are going to leave the middle column and we are going to multiply the first and the third column. 0 into 0 minus 3 2s are 6 plus k into 0 into 4 is 0 minus 3. This is equal to minus 8I plus 6j minus 3k, or 8I minus 6j plus 3k. So your option A will be the right answer. If a vector is divided into two components at right angles to each other, or three components at right angles to each other, then you say that it is a rectangular component of a vector in a plane. If it is a 2D plane, then you divide it into two components. You can divide this vector A into AX and AY components. Or if it is in the 3D plane, you can divide this vector A into AX, AY and AZ components. If alpha, beta, gamma are angles between this vector A and XYZ axis respectively, then your X component of A will become A into cos alpha, Y component of A will become A into cos beta, Z component of vector A will become A into cos gamma. So you can also write here in terms of angle as cos alpha is equal to AX upon A, cos beta is equal to AY upon A, cos gamma is equal to AZ upon A. So these are known as direction cosines. This cos alpha, cos beta and cos gamma are known as direction cosines of angles between vector and 3 coordinate axis. You can also write this cos alpha, cos beta and cos gamma in terms of L, M and N respectively, and L square plus M square plus N square is going to be 1. Or you can write it as cos square alpha plus cos square beta plus cos square gamma is equal to 1. So this is an important thing to remember. This was asked in a previous NEET exam. For example, if you have vector A is equal to 2I plus 4j minus 5k, the direction cosines of the vector A are, here you have 4 options. So you can very easily find the direction cosines now. Just now we told that cos alpha is equal to AX upon magnitude of A. Cos beta is equal to AY upon magnitude of A. Cos gamma is equal to AZ upon magnitude of A. Vector A is given. Now what will be the magnitude of this vector A? It will be square root of all the I, j and k terms square, 2 square plus 4 square plus minus 5 square. This will be equal to square root of 4 plus 16 plus 25. This is equals to square root of 45. So just substitute the values. Here you can write this vector A as AXI plus AYJ plus AZK. With this we can see that the value of AX is 2 upon root 45. Value of AY is 4 upon root 45. Value of AZ is minus 5 upon root 45. So these three are the direction cosines. These three are in option 1. So this is the right answer. See, once you know the concept and you know the formula, you can just solve the answer within minutes and sometimes in seconds. One last thing which you have to know is about x and y components of a vector. See, if you have one vector, say it is a force, okay? This is your vector force. You can have the rectangular components of this vector in a plane. It will be your force in x direction. This will be your force in y direction. And this will be the angle theta between force and the force in the x direction. Now in trigonometry, we saw that if we have a right angled triangle and there is an angle theta, this will be your adjacent side which is along your x direction, and this will be the opposite side of theta which will be in the y direction. So if you find cos theta, it will be equal to adjacent side by hypotenuse, and if you want to find sin theta, this will be equal to opposite side of the theta upon hypotenuse. In the same way, if I want to calculate the forces here in this diagram, F is the hypotenuse here. If I want to find cos theta, it will be equal to the adjacent side, force along x direction upon the hypotenuse which is force. And then if I want to find sin theta, it will be the opposite side which is the force along y direction upon force. So with this, what I am going to get? I am going to get Fx, which is the force in the x direction, which will be equal to F into cos theta, and Fy will be equal to F into sin theta. It means my x component of the force is having F into cos theta. My y component of the force has F into sin theta. This you have to remember. This is very, very important for you from NEET perspective. I will do a numerical based on this so that it will be more clear for you. The x and y components of a force F acting at 30 degree to x axis are respectively. There are 4 options. Just now we told that along x axis it will be F cos theta, isn't it? And along y axis the force will be, the y component of the force will be F sin theta. Now just substitute the values. F into cos of 30. This is F into root 3 by 2. F into sin of 30. Sin of 30 is 1 by 2. So Fy will be F into 1 by 2. Or root 3 by 2 into F. This is the x component of force. And the y component of force is 1 by 2 into F. So this will be your right option. I really hope that this lecture would help you in your NEET exam. Just thing is, try to note down along with my lecture. Try to write by yourself, or if possible, try to pause and solve the problems. I am sure you will be very good in vectors, which are a basic need for your physics in your NEET exam. All the best. Thank you. Bye.